I'm Darrell Steinberg, the mayor of Sacramento. I'm joined here by a number of my colleagues, Vice Mayor of the City of Sacramento, Angelique Ashby, Council members Jay Chenier, Rick Jennings, and Councilmember Katie Valenzuela. Of course, this awful event occurred. A couple of initial announcements before I make a statement. Number one, we're asking everybody to please give some space to the families. We're setting up a place of refuge and support at City Hall, which is why we're doing this event here. Secondly, the police department's Twitter and all our Twitter pages will have the QR that will allow anybody who has any information about who perpetrated this awful crime this morning to be able to report, and to report quickly, so that the police can investigate and arrest those responsible and hold them accountable. I want to thank my colleagues. I want to thank the police department for their tireless work, and I also want to thank the community-based organizations who have been up since the middle of the night, working to try to provide support and solace wherever they can. They always do that, and we're deeply appreciative. This morning, our city has a broken heart. This is a senseless and unacceptable tragedy, and I emphasize the word unacceptable. Thoughts and prayers, of course, are appropriate for the victims and their families, and the people who are still who are fighting for their lives now in the hospital. But thoughts and prayers are not nearly enough. We must do more as a city, as a state, and as a nation. This senseless epidemic of gun violence must be addressed. How many unending tragedies does it take before we begin to cure the sickness in this country? Let us be honest, this is a sickness. The fact that we accept the idea that people can have ready access to assault weapons, to weapons of destruction, and can indiscriminately use them however and wherever they want, that is not just an exception. It happens far too often. It is a sickness in our culture, and we must do everything we can to heal that sickness. We do not know the facts, and we're not here actually to comment on the investigation. That's the role of the Sacramento Police Department, and we will await, their press availability, I'm sure sometime in the next couple of hours, to update you. And so we don't know whether or not this involved underage perpetrators or even the victims at this point. But regardless, it's another call to action around investing more in youth and prevention and early intervention for our young people. That's ultimately the answer to so much of what plagues us. And then on the public safety side, to the public, people are understandably worried. Who wouldn't be? This has been a very difficult time in downtown Sacramento and in Sacramento as a whole. And certainly what happened last night gives pause to our entire community. But be reassured that no one can absolutely prevent random acts of violence. Nobody can predict or absolutely prevent random acts of violence, but your city is protected by dedicated and committed law enforcement officials, by committed public officials who are standing behind me, an entire city team, and unending tangible support, again, from community-based organizations and the community. Like we always do, we will get through this, we will rally, and we will be better for it. This is a time for strength. It is a time for reflection. It is a time to check ourselves. It is a time to up the quotient of kindness and caring for one another. It's time for healing. And it's time for action. Councilmember Katie Valenzuela.
At 2:30 this morning, I got the call that no elected official wants to get. And you'll have to excuse me for being emotional because I haven't really slept since. A call that I've gotten too many times in the 15 months that I've been in office. That there had been another incident of gun violence in my district, that more people had been killed. So I'm heartbroken and I'm outraged. I'm outraged. Our community deserves better than this. I know this isn't a national epidemic. This is not unique to Sacramento, but we can stop it here. We can stop it here. I believe that we have the tools to do this, and I'm asking and so happy that my colleagues are here with me, that you all are here watching to say that enough is enough. Enough is enough. And I will travel anywhere I need to travel, and I will talk to whoever I need to talk to get these guns off these streets and to give our youth what they need so that they can be successful and that they don't get shot down on K Street when they're out trying to have a good time. So thank you for being here today, and I hope it's the last time that I ever see you when something like this happens on the streets of my district. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Ashby.
These are the times when it is very difficult to be a council member. Those calls are very challenging to get. I'd like to tell her it'll be the last, but I've been here too long, so I know it won't be. I too would like to thank the people of Sacramento who acted heroically last night. I hope you all will find them and tell their stories as well. I know thoughts and prayers are not enough, but the families have mine nonetheless. There are too many people right now fighting for their lives in our hospitals, and there are too many parents, friends, and family grieving the loss of young adults in our city. Better than this, California's done more than most, and Sacramento has done more than most, and it is not enough. We're going to have to work together. And as for today's message, the most important thing that any and all of you can do is help us. Help us. If you have video footage, if you know something, please report it to the Sacramento Police Department. They've set up a QR code. It's on Twitter. It's on all of our Twitters. Please use it. Please help us. And then our commitment to you moving forward is that we too will support this community and these families and this city that we love so deeply. I hate being here today, but there's nowhere else I would be, because I love Sacramento and I'm proud to stand with my colleagues. That being said, introduce Councilmember Jennings.
So this is a tough day for all of us, but you can imagine my colleagues and I are here in support for the families who talked to their loved ones yesterday, who loved on their loved ones yesterday, who patted them on the back or even admonished them in some way. Some of their loved ones are no longer here with us. Some of their loved ones are fighting for their life. So as a man of faith, I am praying. I am giving positive thoughts. And I'm asking each of you to do the same for us. We need to do everything we can to help these families get through these times, these very difficult times. So I'm asking all of you to make sure that we reach out, whatever video surveillance that we have, get it to the Sacramento Police Department, get it so we can solve this crime and we can address these issues of gun violence that take the lives of those who had bright futures, but those futures will never be realized. So I'm here today in support of the families, those who are fighting for their lives. I'm here in support of the city that I love with all my heart and soul, and we will do do everything possible to make sure that this does not happen as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Thanks. I just want to thank everyone for being here. Sacramento has a long history of stepping up when it needs to support our own. This is just one more example of that. I want to thank my colleagues for being here today. I echo the words of many of them, of what they've said. I don't know how often we need to see a bad result of things that we haven't done, of the investments that we haven't made in our poorest communities, in the young people that we haven't supported to be successful in their schooling, in their careers, in their lives. We need to get ahead of that curve. I look forward to working with my colleagues to make sure that we can do that. Thank you for being here.
I think the words that my colleagues have said, and I don't want to repeat them, other than the consistent commitment that we need to focus in our community. And that right now, more than anything, it's a call for our region. This isn't just us in the city here, but for our region. People see Sacramento as a regional entity. And so we need to make sure that we all are helping each other, asking for information if you have information, but also to remember that we have to make a commitment for the decades in the future to come. I'm in here to stand with my colleague as well, so that we can never see this again. There are so many of our young kids. I woke up this morning and saw my young kids, and then looked at my phone to see that shock. Many families woke up this morning to see that shock and that horrific outcome. We need to prevent that from ever happening again. Veo aquí que hay unas prensas en español. Estamos aquí para apoyar a las familias que han sufrido mucho esta noche. Una noche tan terrible. Una noche en donde han sufrido los jóvenes, los padres, la comunidad. Y queremos que las personas que tengan información, las personas que tienen videos que estaban aquí anoche, que por favor se comuniquen con el departamento de policía para por favor dar cualquier información que puedan ayudar a dar justicia para las familias. Thank you.
Also joined by Councilmember Maivang and County Board of Education member Karina Talamantes. Thank you for being here as well. We'd be happy to stand for any questions. Again, we are not here to comment on the specifics of the investigation. That is the role of our police chief and our police department, but we would be happy to talk to you about where we stand for and with our community.
Mr. Mayor, can you talk about just this area? I know the council, the city's invested a lot in this area to economic development.
Yeah.
What events like this do?
Well, look at this. Look at this weekend. The other parts of this weekend, and obviously, this pales for all the obvious reasons. We had two major concerts at the Golden One Center Friday and Saturday night. The Community Center Theater is booked. We're attracting conventions. The restaurants are open. People are coming back. I mean, it is a very difficult one because obviously people look at this and say, oh my God, how dangerous is downtown? Well, we want people to come downtown and safely, and people should come downtown. People should come downtown. Now we're going to look at what we obviously have to do, especially in the late hours, to assure that people are safe. But you cannot predict or prevent every single random act of violence. So we've got a dedicated police force. We've got a very active community. And we have a downtown that is in fact coming back. And I want people to come downtown safely. And so this is anything like this. It in some ways, your question, of course, is appropriate. Our minds now and our thoughts have to be with people who are the victims of this tragedy. But you asked the question, and it's an appropriate question, and I answer it to say that we're going to get through this together, and downtown is going to continue to be a great destination for our people and for everyone throughout this region.
Mayor, your colleagues talked about what the city has done to prevent things like this. Obviously, it didn't work. What failed? What else needs to be done?
Well, we have put millions of dollars into gang prevention and gang intervention, and we do not know whether or not this was gang related. We don't know, so I'm not presupposing. You know, the truth of the matter is, over the last number of years, we have changed the investment arc of this city between the federal rescue plan dollars, local dollars, and our own city taxpayer dollars. We are spending more on youth, on gang intervention, on inclusion, on economic development than ever before. Now, is it enough? Absolutely not. We need to continue the trajectory that says the core responsibility of a city is first to provide public safety, but in addition, we must invest in our people and in our communities, and especially our disadvantaged communities. That's what we have been doing in Sacramento. And in many places, it's beginning to show results. But it's only the beginning. And we have so much more work to do. And this terrible event is only going to steel us and deepen our commitment to doing just that, especially on behalf of young people.
Mr. Mayor, so the Vice Mayor said that you know this won't be the last time this will happen, whether that be here in Sacramento or for the people who are watching across the country right now. Is Sacramento, this is an area that people frequent. They go to the clubs, they go to the bars. Midtown, it just happened there recently as well. Is Sacramento a safe city?
Sacramento is a safe city. Sacramento is a safe city. This is not unique to Sacramento. You know, we unfortunately see these kinds of tragedies happen, unacceptable tragedies happen throughout the country. And we are going to do everything we can to prevent another incident. But the Vice Mayor is correct. And let's get back to that issue, which is at the core of this. In what sane society do we allow the proliferation of assault weapons in the way that we see being used indiscriminately, not just in Sacramento, but in other parts of the country? God, can we not have a sane debate where on one side of the line you say that people who want to use firearms for sport or for hunting or even, you know, what reasonable people disagree, for self-defense, on one side of the line, and on the other side of the line we say there is absolutely no place for rapid fire assault weapons anywhere, anyhow? I mean, can we have that? Can we make that distinction? Obviously we can. We couldn't make it after Sandy Hook when 20 plus kindergartners were murdered in cold blood. This is a sickness. It is a sickness in our country. It is a sickness in our culture. And until we confront it and begin making those reasonable distinctions, yes, to respect responsible gun ownership and get rid of these weapons of mass destruction and commit ourselves to doing that, how can we say that something like this would never happen again? It's bigger than us.
Sorry, do we know that an assault's not weapon?
We don't know all the facts, but we know that there were mass casualties in a very short period of time. That's what we know.
Given how busy it was downtown last night, you talked about the events that happened.
Yes.
Were there enough public safety resources available?
Yes, I believe that there were. I mean, and again, the police cannot be on every street corner. That is part of the random nature of a senseless and unacceptable tragedy. We don't know what happened, but if somebody drove by and in an instant unloaded a rapid fire weapon, killing at least 6 people, injuring many more, I don't know how in that instance you can prevent that kind of a random tragedy.
Mayor Nick Meller, Cap Radio. One of the common denominators with these violent incidents is that they're occurring in our hospitality districts, near 20th Street in Midtown here last night. I want to hear the conversations you might be having in the coming days with operators of businesses who are in these hospitality districts in our city.
Well, we're going to ask them what they want and need. And if it means trying to find a way for an even greater police presence, then we'll talk about that, and we'll do whatever we can to assure them and to assure the public and all the people who come downtown that they will be safe. And so, yes, I'm not just pointing to the guns as the only thing. What we can control locally, we will control. We will invest. We will do more both on the public safety side and on the youth intervention side.
So, Mayor, you said these people are fighting for their lives. Do you know the extent of the injuries involved?
I do not have details, but I know that there were people who were obviously seriously and critically injured. I do know that. Yeah.
Does the council have an actual plan to realign this money with each community so that we have options for our youth? Our youth need things to do with their time. They have idle time, and this is how, unfortunately, things like this happen. And secondly, my second question is, will the city, because this is a tragedy for our city, will the city be offering financial assistance to the victims' families to bury their children? No one was prepared for the burial.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna leave it there. Thank you all very much.
When is the police press conference?
We don't know yet. We don't know what time. We don't know time. We will do. I'll just answer quickly. We will do everything that we can to support the family. Of course. Thank you very
Mayor.
much.
All right. We love our mayor.